Hey guys, welcome back. We've got another event. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the currency and the dungeon. Got a much more difficult dungeon, but actually that's not going to cause us too much trouble with the event. So let's dive right in. We've got a couple little boosts. If you've got nature skins, you can get a bonus here, extra damage, and there's a caster health boost that can be helpful. But overall, we're going to go in and check out the quests related to this, the currency, and then some strategy for getting through those difficult dungeons. Alright, looking at the events, we've got the same format where we've got day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 likely quests that are in here. Pretty straightforward to go through. One thing you'll notice that was different than some of the other events in the past, we've had some quests where you had to like 3-star each of the levels. There's no event, at least so far, there's no quest that's requiring you to do that to get any kind of significant benefit. So you're going to 3-star those. You don't even really need to 3-star them, but you can defeat them to get some good hero tokens, but there's nothing else additional that you'll get for beating those. So not really that much. Like the downside for this event, you might say, is that the dungeons are very difficult, which I think is actually a lot of fun. You know, you can try out some new strategies and things. Most of these dungeons that we've had have been pretty straightforward, and you could use your standard team and not really have any issues. This one is more difficult, but there's not really a downside to not being able to complete any of the levels aside from those hero tokens. And those levels aren't repeatable for gems. So a lot of these, with like a standard level, you can refresh and get the tokens again. And you might really want to do that on these event dungeons, because they've got some good heroes there, but it's not available. So you're really not missing out on much. You're going to probably get 1 token, maybe 2 tokens for those high-level heroes. If you can beat them, doesn't matter if you 3-star it, but otherwise, again, it's not a huge loss. Some of the other ones, again, had bigger rewards tied to winning. Here, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. I would say this is your most important quest to complete. You want to kill 50 Cursed Blade invaders. We've got, I'll talk about those 2 here in a minute. Much more difficult heroes that are in the dungeon levels, in the quest or in the event dungeon levels, but they're also in every other level. And that can make it a little bit more difficult to auto-run your levels if you're having trouble with them. But if you can get to 50, then you get a really nice rune. Anytime you've got an elite or superior rune that you can earn through some of these quests, I would say go for it. Put in a good amount of effort there. There's some other benefits if you can, rack up some of these other higher, kill 1,000 fire enemies. Get some more tokens here, get some gems, and you've got your standard ones that are pretty easy to complete. So you won't have any trouble doing most of these quests. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's talk about, I guess, the shop first, because I want to end on the dungeon. So if we go to the shop, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of skins. Obviously, again, for this dungeon, or for this event, there's some bonuses related to having skins. Unfortunately, most of these characters aren't going to be your top meta characters that you would be using regularly anyway, so that's not super helpful, but can be a lot of fun if you really like getting those skins. There are some good characters here. That's probably where I'll be spending my tokens, or I'll be spending my event currency. Serenity's on my team now. I got her fully ascended. That's going to be a big benefit. I've enjoyed using Bramble in the past, but I'm not really using him as much now. Lorelei would be a great one to pick up as well. I've unlocked her, but she's just a 1-star, so similarly, that would be really helpful. Those are probably the highest on my radar. Some of these runes would be really nice to pick up, but that's a lot of currency. I don't know if I'll quite get there, and it would be like the only thing I could purchase. So I think for me, that's going to be it. These loot keys, probably if I get near the end of the currency and I need to do something, I might get loot keys. This seems like a much worse exchange rate than we've had for some other ones. Just kind of comparing to the past. I think we had 100 loot keys for a relatively reasonable amount of currency an event or 2 back. When that happens, sometimes it helps me to stack up those keys. I always want to make sure I'm using all my stamina. There's always things you can use stamina on. I'm going to have a good Ascension or Evo and Ascension video coming out before too long, where I've been able to kind of look through. You can really convert a certain amount of stamina, and you will definitely be able to ascend any hero. You can tie it all back, being able to craft your way up. And so you don't want to waste any stamina. Any extra stamina I have, I'm probably going to put into beyond meeting some of the bonuses that are going on at any given time for gold or for other things, I'm going to probably dump into getting that next ascension for whatever character I'm looking for. So anyway, that's where I'm going to be spending the shop currency. And if we go to these dungeons, there's some real challenge in the dungeons. Let's talk about this. All right, I didn't have too much trouble with the first one. You kind of go through here. I think you won't have too much trouble, kind of regardless of the team. Second one gets a little bit more difficult. And these are the two characters I want to talk about, Cursed Blade and Instructor Pyro. So they will show up in any of your levels, and they can cause a lot of trouble. It does seem like they scale. So if you're getting frustrated, you went through these levels, you notice they're showing up on Gold Island and any other island or campaign map, dungeon. They do seem to scale with either the level or just generally in the event dungeons. As you go up, they get much more difficult. But when I'm doing like Gold Island or something, it does seem that their level has been dropped down a little bit. So it's not quite as bad. All right, one more thing before we jump in, because I do want to show the strategy I was using. I'm pulling in Lord Zom, and there's a reason for this. Primarily that those two characters can often one-shot your team. Unless you've got a very strong team, very high defense, and you're kind of well set up, you can be one-shot like every round by those characters. So you need to do some things a little bit differently. And one thing I would do, kind of even if you have Lord Zom, I'm not sure what ascension level you need to have him at, but being able to bring up those skeletons that are going to be raised every turn, they can absorb that hit. You're going to see it in just a minute. They'll die and then they'll be resurrected back again. That's really a key here. So ideally, you would swap out one of your runes. I'll show you one example here. All right, so for a rune with this statement on the end, the targetable only by taunt or provoke, if you can put one of those on Lord Zom, and then you don't auto battle because one of his skills here, let's go this one, if he eats up all of his minions, then he's vulnerable and he'll be the only one that can be targeted. But otherwise, you pretty much can't die. You pretty much can't lose this process. So we're going to go ahead and go to the 15. This is, gives you a little bit more challenge. In terms of the team, if you're putting Lord Zom on there and you've got that rune in place, I actually didn't move mine because I don't think I'm going to have that trouble with this team. He can take a hit or two as long as we get going, and I can resurrect him with Angel Emily. But in general, if you do put that rune on him, I think it really doesn't matter too much what else you do. Who do you have on your team? If you want a little bit more benefit, you can put Serenity on there. She's got, if we look at her abilities here, you get the Void Aura that goes once per turn. That can be a nice buff or a nice debuff for the other team. And then, what am I looking for here? Allies take 60% reduced damage from non-physical attacks and 20% reduced damage from chaos attacks. This can be a nice benefit to help the survivability of your team. Even after she dies, I believe those buffs stay in place. Similarly, Grondar's got a nice little buff that stops your team from taking from quite a few different status effects. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So can't be burned, frozen, chilled, paralyzed, or shocked. That can help out. Again, I think that sticks around even after he dies. And if I had the ability to ascend and unlock this next skill for Underlord Thrax, this would be the one I would bring as well. So slow allies gain 30% bonus to health and defense. That would impact Lord Zom, but also all of the little minions that he brings about. So that's what I would choose if I was trying to kind of optimize this process, but I don't think it really matters. I think you can do the same thing regardless of who you bring. So let's get in. We'll try to do it as quickly as we can. It does take a little bit of time. This isn't a particularly high damage team, especially once the characters get taken out. So in saying all of that, really, it doesn't matter if you lose all the teammates other than Lord Zom. You're not going to have any issues. They might get taken out. Here we do have Instructor Pyro. If he takes someone else out, that's not a big deal, and he can one-shot pretty much anyone on the team. I think Grandar, when he's taunting, can tank a hit or two, especially if he does a couple hits on him first. to reduce his attack. But you just saw, even taunting, he just died. So, but it doesn't really matter. So we'll get through here, you know, attack everyone. The only issue, once he's out, you don't want Lord Zom using that final skill to eat him. Because you're only going to take one hit per turn, but if he pulls him away and then you get hit, then you're going to have issues. So I'm going to go ahead and just, it doesn't even, at this point, I guess, I could taunt with him. I don't think we'll have an issue. And even if you do, then Angel Emily, if you do have Angel Emily on your team, can heal, it can resurrect Lord Zom and bring him back in. So I'm just doing, kind of spamming the attack. Every time that guy dies, he comes back. No issues. And as long as you're not dying more than every 7th time, or every 7th turn for Lord Zom, then Angel Emily can bring him back. I'm not even taunting with this guy. He does, I did luckily get the little dude that will taunt, so I could save it that way. But even if you don't get the taunting version, if you get like the little mage or the archer or something, you'll still be fine. Yeah, so that's, if I was being more careful, then I would taunt with that little guy, or I would have put that rune on Lord Zom. I don't think we're going to have a lot of trouble here. We'll resurrect him. And he comes back again. Alright, let's try to finish him off here before long. It's another benefit of Serenity. Any melee attack that is made by someone on your team gives them the ability to attack a second time. That can really add up a lot of damage if you do have quite a few melee attackers on your team. Alright, getting close here. Down, bring it back. There we go. Alright, now, at most, we should see Cursed Blade here as well. You'll see, at most you can get both of them showing up in the same level. You do get lucky sometimes and only have one of them show up. I don't think I've run into a level where neither of them have shown up. Let's see when we get there. Alright, so there she is. So I'm going to take it off auto here. None of the rest of the enemies really do a lot, but they will take out your, basically one hit whoever's there. So I'm going to take out the rest of these just to kind of get them out of the way. And then we'll focus on Cursed Blade. Alright, so I don't want to use that final skill. Alright, I want to go ahead and taunt. Again, really just because I don't have that rune transferred over. I do have 2 of those. Taunting, only attack, only targetable if you're taunting or provoke. I do have 2 of those runes, but you can see they're currently on Angel Emily and on Serenity, and I just don't really want to take them off. I think it's like 150,000 gold at this point to take them off, so we're going to leave them alone and just kind of whittle her down. Let's see. And we can go ahead and hit her once. Oh, I thought I was going to be able to taunt still. We might get stung and have her hit Lord Zom, but Angel Emily can take that. So there's the one. It's the one really rough hit. If she can do that Vampiric Shuriken. Usually that doesn't kill someone in one hit. I'm not really sure why that took him out, but no worries. You always could use a potion. I haven't had to do that. Should just be fine. You see she's halfway down, and most of her hits are just taking out this guy down here. Alright, a little bit more. And we'll get this on her. Should take out a little, well, she dodged it. Yeah, she's got really high dodge too. You can see we're still taking her out. But it takes a little bit. Taunt with this guy again, almost done. She's dead. That should be the end of the threat for the whole dungeon. We can go ahead and put it on auto. The final bosses in these dungeons they don't really present any threat. Pretty easy, no worries. You can just auto battle them and no troubles. That's what I don't want him to do, but because there's no threat, it doesn't really matter. Alright, so we're on to the boss. I think we can just auto battle this, no trouble. I didn't do it for my first one. Obviously I took a little bit more care, but I think with this strategy, shouldn't have too much trouble. You can see the amount of damage we're doing. I don't think they'll do that much damage to us. I hate to eat my words during a video, but hopefully this will be it. A little bit of lag in the video transfer. I'll try to work on getting a direct connection. Right now I'm doing it via like a Wi-Fi connection, but I think you still hopefully I'll catch up there. Yeah, still get a good view of what we're doing. And that's it. We took them out. Everyone's alive. We do it for one skeleton. I forget what this will give us. We get the tokens, the hero tokens, and a 3-star victory because all 4 of our members were alive. Even though Grandar had died, he was replaced by a skeleton, so we still get credit for a 3-star victory. I thought about trying to do a similar run on the 4th level with Zom and Angel Emily, and then bring in a few like resurrection potions or just energy potions and trying to work our way through that way. I think, I was able to do some of that on my own and get through to the final boss, but the final boss there is much more difficult, so I was still struggling. I think there's probably a good route, but at the end of the day, it's going to be quite a bit of effort, and you'd get 4 to 6 tokens out here. Let's go down here. So, and it'd be great to continue building him up. I've got a 2-star right now. It's going to take a lot to get to the next level, to get to 3-star. That would be a nice next level to do it. I don't think I'm going to probably have enough time to push harder and try to get to that level, but I think if you use the strategy, you can get the first 3, even with much weaker teams, without too much trouble. I think you can probably do the first 2 with just your standard team and not have too much trouble, but Lord Zom certainly makes it easier. Alright, I think that's it in terms of the event. I hope everyone has a great time, get some good stuff out of it, and we'll see you guys all soon.